If you're somebody who is on the journey of healing from emotional overeating and weight loss, and you have had some success already, you've had seen some results, one day of overeating can definitely trigger this reason, right? All of a sudden we could be like, oh my God, what if I'm back to before? What if I've lost it all? So the fear isn't really about the food. It's about yourself. Hello and welcome to another new episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, and today I want to talk about something that I get asked all the time. And this question is, will one day of overeating make me gain weight? And more importantly, why does it feel so scary when it happens? And so today I'm going to talk about this and also give you 3 real reasons why it feels scary. And I'm going to give you a little reframe at the end. Because if you've ever woken up feeling totally just different, right, after a day of overeating, right? You know the feeling I'm talking about. Your stomach feels heavy, your face, it just feels puffy. You look in the mirror, you're just like, I don't even recognize myself. Your body feels really different. And before you've even had your morning routine, your cup of coffee, you've brushed your teeth, before anything happens, you just wake up. The second that you get this glimpse of yourself in the mirror, just you feel into your body the fear, the edginess, and the self-criticism. The self-criticism already shows up. And this can sound like, oh my God, I messed up, or this is how it starts, or I knew I couldn't trust myself, or I failed, or just something that's self-flagellating and self-criticizing. And this feeling, the anxiety, it feels so urgent. It feels so real, right? Your world starts to feel much smaller, and it feels like proof and almost like forecasting that something bad just happened and something worse is going to happen. So today I want to slow this way down. I want to slow this spiral way down, because one day of overeating is not what makes someone gain weight. Okay. It does not make someone gain weight, but it does trigger something very specific. And once you understand what that is, the panic that you're feeling, where everything starts to collapse on itself, or your vision starts to get really narrow, everything starts to feel really intense, starts to lose its grip. But before we start, if you're new to me, my name is Alana Kessler, and I am a registered dietitian. I have been in this health, this wellness space for 20 plus years. I've worked clinically, I've owned a yoga studio, done a lot of mindfulness, I've done all the things. But my passion is helping people really find love with their body, lose weight, reconnect with themselves, overcome any kind of emotional or addictive behaviors with food, and just really live your best life. So if you're new here and you're new to me, welcome. And we are going to jump right in. So the straight answer, one day of overeating does not cause real weight gain. It does not cause real weight gain, because your body can't suddenly gain fat from one day. Okay, but what it can do is it can hold water, it can feel bloated, it can expand, right? But that isn't fat, that isn't weight gain, that isn't long-term weight gain. It can feel expanded, it can digest slowly for a little while, it can impact your metabolism. But emotionally, so physiologically, no, but emotionally, that one day can feel huge, right? And you can gain a heaviness to your emotional state. And that's because what's happening is not about calories in, calories out. This isn't I had one day of overeating, I ate too many calories, I'm going to gain weight. It's not about that. It's what's happening is you're getting this accumulation, and what is collecting is what overeating has meant before. Okay, what overeating, and these are the reasons we're going to talk about why it feels so scary, because what does this one day of overeating trigger? Okay. What are some of the reasons why one day of overeating feels so scary? And like I said, it's not because fat is going to come on our body, like out of nowhere, because that's not possible, like I said. But there are these reasons. And reason number one is that it wakes up the memory of losing control. Okay. So when there's one day of overeating, it turns on this switch where control is lost. And here's what that fear feels like. So you overeat one day and suddenly, your whole emotional state changes, right? Your body tightens. Again, like I said before, everything starts to feel like it's getting smaller. Your chest feels tense. Your thoughts start racing. Maybe you start dissociating from your present experience. You feel more disconnected from your day-to-day life. And you think the fear is about the calories, the food, the amount, the volume of food you just ate. But the truth is that what you're feeling inside your body is not about the volume of food you just ate. It's about the memory. Okay. Your body remembers what comes after overeating, or what used to come after overeating in the past. It's not what is going to come after overeating now, because now you're going to have a different pathway for your neurobiology, but your body remembers what used to come after the overeating, which was weeks of chaos, which was weight gain, not because of this one day of overeating, but because the behaviors during the weeks of chaos after the one day of overeating, the starting over again, right? The hitting rock bottom, the rock bottom launch pad. I spoke about this in an episode a couple of months back where I talked about why the rock bottom launch pad, where we hit rock bottom. And this is this like addictive pattern that we have, where we let ourselves hit rock bottom so that we can source motivation to change, right? But it's like, we have to hit this rock bottom. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. But your body remembers, right? That whole kind of cycle. And, the rock bottom cycle, the starting over again, feeling like you couldn't stop, feeling like you were not the one in control. And so when overeating happens now, your nervous system, again, it doesn't stay in the present moment. I think that's the biggest thing that we have to understand, is that a lot of the emotions that we're feeling in our body, a lot of the chemicals and the emotions that arise are not about, what's happening right now. It's not really that right now is dangerous. It's what's happening is it's triggering old scenarios that is causing us to think that this one behavior, this one circumstance, this one scenario is going to lead to this massive destruction. But what we have to remember is that what you're scared of was something that happened over weeks and months, because the pattern wasn't interrupted with type of awareness and behavior change, right? So when overeating happens now, you immediately get boomeranged back into that thought. But here is the reframe that matters here, right? One day did not cause weight gain before. The pattern that followed did, right? Like I said, the overeating wasn't the problem. It was the spiral that happened after. And spirals, they're not a food thing. They don't start with the food. They start with the way we react, and the way that we react and respond to a day of overeating, right? It's less about the food and the substance and the calories itself. It's more about our reaction to it, and being able to interrupt, a reaction that's taking us down, a destructive road. All right, so I'm going to pause here for a second before we go into reason number 2, because this really matters. My team and I, we put so much time and effort into these podcast episodes, the scripting, the recording, the editing, because we care so much about making something that actually helps. And we keep the podcast free on purpose. And the way that it stays free is through your engagement. When you subscribe, when you rate the podcast, when you leave a comment, leave a great review, share an episode, it tells the platform that the conversations we're having in this podcast is worth circulating. And it helps reach the people who are dealing with this quietly, right, who are dealing with this quietly, and that might be you. That might have been you before. This is me inviting you to step in a little bit closer. And if there's a topic that you want us to cover or something that in this episode that hits for you, let us know in the comments. Leave us an anonymous voice note on SpeakPipe. SpeakPipe is a link where you can leave us an anonymous voice note with a question or a comment. The link is in the show notes. And we actually build future episodes based on what you respond to and based on what you ask us. So thank you so much. All right, moving on. Reason number 2 that it feels so scary after one day of overeating is that your body feels different. So your brain assumes danger. Okay. And this is a survival mechanism, but this is how this one shows up, right? You wake up, your body feels unfamiliar. It feels more full, more bloated. You're feeling more sensation. You're just feeling a difference in how you normally feel. And your brain immediately goes, something is wrong. Like I said, this is a survival mechanism. And you think that the fear that you're feeling is that you gained weight, right? You're like, oh my God, I gained so much weight, right? You're going into this future catastrophe forecasting. But it's not about weight gain. It's about change. It's about change. And if you already struggle with body trust, you're already having this relationship with your body that feels like it's on eggshells, right? You're not so comfortable living in your body as it is, right? Or you're trying to make a change with your body. Any sudden change in how your body feels can be threatening or can feel threatening to your nervous system. But again, what most people feel after overeating has nothing to do with gaining fat, gaining weight, right? Which is what we're talking about here, like actual substantial weight, right? What it is it's the food volume that's still sitting in your stomach. It's stress hormones, right? It's stress hormones. It's temporary things, right? It's maybe like you're constipated or something. It's temporary things. And it's so important to have this perspective that when you feel this feeling of, oh my God, I just overate, I'm going to, I probably just put on insert amount of pounds that feels scary to you. It's really important to remember that this too shall pass. This is temporary. Your body's mechanism is really highly adaptable and able to process this experience, and it will not cause long-term weight gain. Okay, this is very temporary. The problem that is that we've been taught that any change to the body means that like we failed in our goals, especially if weight loss is a goal. So instead of asking, what does my body need right now, right? What does my body need right now to turn the light switch on to its adaptive mechanism so that I could process through this experience? Instead of doing that, we jump to, how can I undo this? How can I fix this immediately? How can I undo this one day of overeating? And this panic keeps your body tense longer. And it also usually leads to behaviors that keep your body in this survival mode longer and even triggers the spiral to keep happening longer, right? So here's the reframe, really important. Discomfort, right? Feeling body discomfort doesn't mean that you've done damage to your body. It means that your body is just adjusting, and bodies adjust best when you just let it be and let it do its thing that it's conditioned and programmed to do naturally. The thing that you will have to learn how to deal with is the discomfort in that process, okay? Because the body doesn't want to feel attacked, and the body will feel attacked if we go to extremes and do something extreme to try to undo the overeating that just happened, okay? And the last reason is that the fear isn't about today, it's about trust. You think the feeling that you're feeling is you're scared because you overate and because you're worried about the pounds that are going to stick to your body because of it. But if we dig a little bit deeper, what's underneath is usually more about trust in ourselves, right? The thought underneath is usually, what if I don't stop? What if this turns into days? What if I lose control again, right? And if you're somebody who is on the journey of healing from emotional overeating and weight loss, and you have had some success already, you've seen some results, one day of overeating can definitely trigger this reason, right? All of a sudden we could be like, oh my God, what if I'm back to before? What if I've lost it all? So the fear isn't really about the food. It's about yourself. It's about whether you can trust what happens next, right? It's about whether you can trust, like, it's really like, who am I going to choose to be in the next moment? You've built a good life. From the outside, it looks like you have it all together. You eat clean, you work hard, you take care of everyone. But there's this one area that still feels impossible to master, and that is food. You can eat perfectly all day and still end up in the kitchen at night wondering why you keep doing this. You promise yourself you'll start fresh tomorrow, and I know you mean it every single time. But the cycle, it always finds its way back, especially when you're stressed, when you're overwhelmed, or when you're just tired of being the one that's holding it all together. And I get it because I lived that way for years. And what I learned is this: the problem, it was never about food. It was the pressure underneath it, the perfectionism, the self-doubt, the part of me that never felt safe and secure to just be me. And that's why I created the sober eating sequence. It's a proven 3-phase method that rewires the emotional patterns and the belief systems driving overeating so you can relax, trust yourself around food, and release weight completely naturally, without force and without obsession. Because when your body feels secure, it lets go. The cravings quiet, the self-punishment, it softens, and food, it stops being the thing that you have to fix. This is not another plan. This isn't another rule book. It's a revolutionary transformation for your nervous system, for your body, and for your identity. So join the sober eating movement today. And the fear of that, of this new kind of pathway, but this new opening, this new road that's in front of you, you can see it as an opportunity to laminate and to legitimize this new version of yourself, right? So you could start to see this, because the immediate fear is going to be, I've lost all of I've lost this new self that I've been doing over the last weeks, months, days, whatever it is, right? Because in the past, a one day of overeating might have led to restriction, to punishment, to skipping meals, to going on some sort of crazy cleanse, doing some intense exercise, punishing exercise routines. And so your body learned that one day of overeating is dangerous. And this is just something that has been a familiar pattern. So when overeating happens now in this moment, your nervous system panics, not because of like the calories, or there's nothing wrong, there's nothing, like I said in the beginning, there's nothing dangerous about eating too many calories. The only thing that's going to happen is discomfort, probably for a couple days. The panic is coming from what it expects you to do afterwards. And I want to give an example to this, because I talk about this all the time to my friends. A lot of times and this has nothing to do with food, but I think it's a really good example. A lot of times when I'm in a relationship with someone, and I think it's important, to think about your relationship with food and eating in a similar way. And it doesn't matter. It could be my husband, it could be my friends, it could be the people I work with. When something happens that is, that creates conflict or discomfort, or, that's not ideal. Right. So the example would be like, you had this one day of overeating and it creates a shift in the equilibrium, right? Like, why are we talking about this? Because we're thinking right now that why we're talking about one day of overeating is because we're assuming that there hasn't been overeating for a couple weeks, months. And now one day of overeating is going to cause a big upheaval in your nervous system because it's something different from the status quo. when something in a relationship happens different from the status quo, for me, I get very anxious, not necessarily about the conflict itself, right? For me, I get anxious about being mad. Right? I don't like the feeling of being angry about something. I don't like being angry at people or towards people. I don't like that feeling. So when something out of that changes out of the status quo, the fear is more about the panic is more about me being in a state of anger than anything else. And so it's the same thing here. It's a very similar thing here. It's not so much about the calories, that is causing the panic. It's more about what it expects you to do afterward. So you're more fearful or anxious because of you're thinking about yourself doing things in the past that caused you suffering, that's caused you pain. Okay. But that doesn't have to happen. So here's the reframe that changes everything, right? Trust isn't built by never overeating, the same way that it's not possible for me to go through life without having disagreements or conflicts with people. It's not possible. It's not possible to go through your life without overeating, right? So trust and collaboration and connection, whether it's with people or with food, isn't built by things never going off the rails. That's not how it's built. It's built by how you respond to it when it does go off the rails. So when we go back to eating, when you have this one day of overeating, when the next step is calm, right? When it's normal eating, there's no punishment, when you learn how to increase your emotional capacity to deal with the temporary discomfort, your body relaxes. And when your body relaxes, this cycle that you were in before, that you were kind of reconnecting to from the past that was creating a lot of the emotional turmoil inside of you, it starts to loosen, right? It starts to loosen. The same way for me, right? Like I don't have to just get mad at people. There's ways to communicate and to connect and to collaborate with people that anger doesn't have to be what comes. But when that something is in your nervous system memory, right? So all these three things now coming together, the nervous system memory, that's really what we're most afraid of, is that we're going to behave and experience the suffering of something from the past, So what actually determines whether weight changes, right? So now we know that one day of overeating does not cause weight gain, right? Does not cause weight gain. Bodies don't gain weight from one intense eating day or one off the rails eating day. It does gain weight though from restricting after overeating, from skipping meals to fix it, from swinging between control and, effort, and from staying stressed out around food, from really trying to micromanage food. That's how you gain weight, because you keep your stress hormones elevated. You destroy your metabolism. You create like this instability in the metabolism. So, instability and insecurity within your biology and your nervous system and your metabolism is what creates weight gain. But one day of overeating does not, right? One day of overeating followed by calm, normal eating, within a couple days, your body will regulate 100%, right? One day of overeating followed by panic and punishment and a spiral, that's when you might gain weight, not because of the calories, like I said, but because of the pattern that happens on repeat afterwards, right? Your body is always responding to the pattern, not the immediate moment. I think that's really important to remember. What actually helps instead of panicking? So if you've had a day of overeating, here's what actually helps. Eat your next meal, right? Eat your next meal. Keep it high nutrient dense. Don't try to make up for it. Drink water, right? Let your digestion catch up. Move gently if it feels good. Don't throw yourself at high intensity workout classes. Again, that creates stress in your body usually. and actually slows your metabolism because your body feels like it's in danger in this high intensity situation. So it actually shuts down metabolism. Also, try not to make this one day of overeating mean something about you, mean something about your worth, mean something about your character, because it doesn't. Okay. Because the faster that you can return to steadiness within yourself, the faster your body does too. And you can feel steady within yourself and still feel uncomfortable, right? That is a skill. That is a skill I teach in all of my courses, programs, everything, because that is a true anchor skill that you need to have. All right. So just to wrap up, one day of overeating does not make you gain weight, but fear, punishment, instability over time can. Okay. So the real work, it's not preventing every overeating moment. That's not what we want to do. Right? But it's learning how to respond after the moment without it turning into a spiral. Because when your body knows that this won't turn into chaos, right? This won't turn into a multi-day, multi-week drama. It stops panicking. And when the panic settles, the cycle settles, and that's really what creates lasting change. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. If you're interested and you want to understand what's really driving your own patterns with this, with food, with overeating, there's a free quiz that I have that is linked below in the show notes. You can go ahead and click that. And until next time, I'm Alana, and thank you for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.